So, hi everyone, and welcome to Aisling O Rourke. She's joining me today to talk a little bit about how to use press to get visible, like a massive visibility compared to all of the other bits and bobs that we do to try and get in front of our audiences. So, I'm just going to let Aisling, the communications coach, tell us all about who you are and where you come from. No, tell us a little bit about your offering and how you help people.
Hi, Claire. So I am communicationscoach.ie and I am a media professional based in the Republic of Ireland. I do communications coaching and media training. And the idea there is to help independent business owners use media to give their businesses massive visibility. So I think there's so much focus on social media. We get a bit obsessed with, being on trend, getting a certain number of likes or views in our posts that we can forget that all of us in our day-to-day lives, we listen to radio, we watch TV, we read newspapers in our thousands, even though, certain elements of society would tell us that that's a dead medium. It's not really, So it's about how to use that, I suppose, Claire, for want of a better phrase, traditional media to give your brand credibility and visibility.
That's fantastic. You're just like preaching to the converted here, because I am always telling people that be very, very careful with social media. It's a vacuum of time and it doesn't actually necessarily impact your bottom line. So what does that process really look like? Just in terms of, like, for people who don't know Aisling already, she's been a broadcaster for many years. She's in an education situation, helping people to become broadcasters. Tell us a little bit about what that looks like, about like, say it was a person, an independent business owner, they work alone, they're trying to launch something or get visible. What would the process be? How would you help them to kind of do their visibility? What are the practical steps?
So the program that I run is called Cut Through the Noise. And we meet first to basically chat through what the problem might be, where to start. Do a bit of a comms audit. So what are you currently doing to get your message out there? What are you telling people about your brand or your company? And then assess what we can do in a number of sessions. So generally speaking, it might be in blocks of 5 weeks, but that's very dependent on what each company would need. So, and then we'd meet maybe once a week, and it's a coaching process. So I give people homework, and work is required. Yeah, I know, but work is required. You have to invest in the process as well. And it's about getting a framework around how to create your press releases. What kind of a blurb do you need for your company, for your social media, for your own website even? But, what information are you putting out there into the world about your company? And making sure, like, the biggest thing for me is that whatever it is that you are saying about your company, if you have people working with you, you all need to be singing off the same hymn sheet. You can't be causing any kind of confusion. So if you met me out, say, over a cup of coffee, and I described my company as doing A, B, C, and D, well, then if another member of staff meets somebody, the same person, again, they need to explain it in the same way. And we need to be communicating really clearly. And then it's about getting the message really clear, and then finding appropriate media outlets to target then for coverage.
And how would you go? Like, it makes sense that if you're putting yourself out there, you need to be saying the same. I know a lot of people that I push to go for visibility, they feel like I'm always saying the same thing. It's like, that's a good thing. That makes it more memorable. And I know it can feel a little bit uncomfortable. You feel like you're repeating the same joke or telling the same story over and over again, but that's kind of what it's about. So once people have that figured out, how do they go about finding appropriate, like the right kind of media outlets for them?
So in publicity, there is this term that gets bandied about a lot. It's spray and pray. So like that news desks over the years. Like, I've worked in media for almost 2 decades now, which makes me feel rather old and frightened, but hey, it is what it is.
You started when you were 4 though, Aisling. I mean,
of course, yeah. But like you'd be at, say, like my practice was always based in news, and you'd get in press releases going, why are you sending this to the news desk? This is not newsworthy. This more appropriate. And and it's not even about whether or not you're feeling generous, it's if you happen to have the time, you might think about, well, who in the company is more appropriate, I'll send it on to them. But 9 times out of 10, you are so busy, you don't have that time. So it's about figuring out, where does your audience live? So like, say if you took radio as an example. So in Ireland in particular, we love radio. We listen to more radio in Ireland than in any other country in the world. We are glued to radio. And so if you want your business to be featured on a particular radio station because you know that your target market tends to be in that group of people that listens to that group, that radio station, well, then you need to listen to it yourself and figure out what's the style, what show talks about the kind of thing that you do, you know, what the style of the presenter is. Because say you're lucky enough to get on air with them and get an interview with them, if they're really jokey and kind of nearly a comedian on air, but you're very, very serious, that might not be your comfort zone. So you need to find as a style that you can feel comfortable with if you're going to be speaking to them, you know. So it's about doing a bit of research about, like, where does your target market live? Then based on that, what within that little niche, what media outlets are the ones for you to target, and
it has to make sense.
And like, it has to, like, for instance, if you're talking about, say, content that converts in your own company, Claire, I wouldn't pitch you to a sports program.
No,
for example, because they can talk about that. Okay, and that's really, and I know that's a very simplistic answer, or example, but it's about finding the suitable one, the one where people who are likely to buy from you are likely to be listening to, are likely to be reading or following.
Because otherwise you're you're in the wrong room, as I always love to say. Like, you're not showing up for the right people. It's like going to a networking event for, I don't know, farmers when you are into luxury goods. It's like you're in the wrong room. So it makes perfect sense. And sometimes it's like we do get kind of, again, going back to that social media thing, you see, oh, I've been featured in Forbes, or I've been featured here and here and there. But like, it's not going to be much good to you if the people who you're trying to reach don't read those publications, or don't listen to those shows, or just don't watch those shows. So what advice would you give to somebody who has heard this interview today and thought, yes, I'm going to go for press? What would you say their first step should be?
What are you going to say?
Yeah.
So
you said something there a minute ago, it has to be newsworthy. I was like, that just makes so much sense. Like, nobody's going to like run an ad for you, essentially.
Yeah. So like, and this is the thing. So it's buying advertising in media is one option.
Yeah.
Okay. But then being featured by media, whether that's on a radio program or an interview in a podcast, maybe, or even in a newspaper, that involves you going out and telling a story. So you have to have a story that is of interest. So that's where you find, you know, like, maybe you're doing something around launching a new company launching a new product to mark, you know, Halloween or something like that. And Ireland's connections to Samhain, which is the original Halloween before America got involved. And you know, maybe you're doing something around that. So like, you have to target, okay, what is it that you're selling? Why is this particularly relevant? You have to give a bit of notice. And then, okay, you have to get a press release together, but you have to identify who you're going to let know about this, who you're giving this content to. And then you have to be ready. So the golden rule is never send out a press release if you're not ready to take the call straight away.
Right. Because they could just like receive it and then say like, let's go. Oh, you could that is scary.
Yeah, it's really frightening. So like, you could send in a press release, and this has happened to me as a broadcaster several times, where sitting at the desk, press release arrives, and I go, brilliant. That's exactly the kind of thing I was looking for today. Yeah. You pick the phone straight away, and they go, oh,
today, now.
Yeah. Okay. And there's kind of the silence, the awkward silence of, oh my God, oh, right, oh, okay, right. So that you need to know what's in the press release inside out.
Yeah.
Before you need to know what it is. Okay. And you need to be ready to talk. And if you hit that send, and don't be expecting the phone call to come immediately, because, you know, media professionals are very busy and under serious pressure. It's not an easy job, but you need to be ready to go. And unfortunately, and as a woman, I hate saying this, but unfortunately, there does tend to be a gender divide on this respect, where female entrepreneurs are more likely to say, oh, I'm not quite ready, can you come back to me tomorrow?
Right. Yeah. And then they miss the opportunity.
And then the opportunity's gone.
Oh, that is a kicker.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's really good advice. Like if you're sending in a press release, be ready to rock and roll like immediately, pretty much, because the turnover in like at the news desk or in the media arena, like it's now or it's gone. It's kind of just be ready to go at the drop of a hat. So to shift gears a little bit, I know like that's the kind of have something to say is the very, very best first step that a person could take, and to consider it as how somebody's consuming this content, to the side, who is it, why would this be interesting to them. I know another aspect of the work that you do is media training. So I've heard this term many times over the years. What is media training, and why would somebody do it?
So being able to talk about what you do and what your business is sounds easier than it is in reality. Much easier than it is in reality, particularly if you're not used to public speaking. Okay. So media training gets you to a point, and it's like, it's training, it's coaching, it's over a period of time, gets you to a point where you can have your elevator pitch off the top of your head, you know, have your key messages. So like, I would always say to somebody that if you are in a position where you're being interviewed by a media professional, whether that's a podcaster or a journalist or even a researcher in advance of an appearance, have the key messages, have maybe 2 or 3 things you are really clear on that you really want to mention.
Yeah.
You will never, ever, ever get to say everything you want to say, because time runs out, or you get really enthusiastic talking about one aspect and you might forget in the heat of the moment. So, and like I see people time and time again, it's like, oh my God, I do this and I do this and I do that. And I'm like, oh no, simplify everything down. And on this opportunity, pick the 3 things you want to mention. And you'll be doing really well to mention all 3.
Wow. Because like that's it. There needs to be a hierarchy to it as well. Because if you do kind of, if the person you're speaking with asks you a question on that, you really don't get to 2 and 3. You need to front load it with that first one in case that's all you get to say.
Well, like
that's an interesting thing.
I've worked in offices over the years where, you know, the boss, the head honcho would come down and say, oh, Aisling, I need you to do this now. And I'm like, oh, hold on a second. You said 10 minutes ago I was supposed to do that there and then.
Yeah.
Which is more important, you know? So, and it's the same thing again. You need to prioritize at this point in time. What's the key? What's the priority message? And but just because, like, I'm not going to say that if you send out a press release every day of the week that you get, you know, a media opportunity every day of the week, because that's just not going to happen. But you sprinkle it out over time.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's about really, like any of us that are in business and we launch a product or a service, we put a lot of work in, you know, it's hard. So when you get the opportunity to promote it, you want to make the most of that opportunity. And if you're trying to get across multiple messages, it's going to be confusing to the listener.
Yeah. You want to send people away with one clear takeaway of like who you are,
Yeah.
what you do, and who you do it for. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Aisling, I'm gonna wrap it up because we're at about 20 minutes in. Where can we find you online, and how can people get in touch with you?
So my website is thecommunicationscoach.ie. I'm on LinkedIn, Aisling O Rourke CC, and I'm on Instagram as thecommunicationscoach.ie or hello@thecommunicationscoach.ie.
Fabulous. So communicationscoach.ie. That's the key. That's the one to remember, guys. Aisling, so thank you so much for your time today. We'll send this out to everybody in the coming days, and yeah, go grab a session with Aisling if you're keen to use media to get massive visibility for your business. Thanks a million, Aisling.
Thanks very much, Claire.